Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm back with another plant video. We are talking propagation today, Hoya propagation to be exact. I have rooted in several different mediums to show you guys today. It has been in the mediums for about 2 weeks now. We're doing Hoya pubicalis cuttings, each one node, and we're doing several different kinds of mediums. So I'm basically going to be showing you guys the progress of them, sort of talking about my favorite techniques, my favorite methods, and that's pretty much what today's video is going to be. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. No need to belabor on. The first one that I'm going to show you guys, the reveal, shall I say, is in vermiculite. I actually have never rooted in vermiculite before, so this is definitely going to be a first for me. If you root in vermiculite or have heard about vermiculite, vermiculite actually is one of those things that people use for like seedlings and like starter plants. It's something that's found in like those types of soils just because it holds moisture pretty well. So I thought that maybe it might be a little bit easy to root in. So we are just gonna check this out. All of them are sort of just like stuck into this little plastic cup. I think it's like a 7-ounce cup that I got on Amazon. It was like a pack of 100 for like $5, something crazy like that. These are super cheap and easy if you guys wanted to figure out what to root in. I think this is probably one of like the better things to root in. Just like a plastic cup is all you really need. You don't need anything fancy basically, but let's just go ahead and uproot this guy. Oh wow. Oh wow, that rooted way more than I thought that it was gonna root. So that is what this guy looks like. You can see that there are a few roots on it. Like I said, it's only been in the mediums for about a couple of weeks. So that is vermiculite. It seems to have like rooted way faster and easier than I thought it was. But yeah, I feel like those roots are pretty gnarly. I really don't like how vermiculite looks. It looks kind of ugly, but you know, it seems to have worked pretty well. So we're just gonna stick this guy back in there, and then we are going to move on to perlite. The ever so popular perlite. I feel like everybody and their mother has asked me to try out perlite for rooting. I've already developed my, how would you say, I've already developed my feelings towards this. It's not my favorite. I already know that it's not my favorite, and it's not because I think that it's something that like is slow to root, because I don't think that's the case. I don't like how quickly it dries out. I've definitely noticed that in my plants that have been propagating in perlite. I honestly decided to take out like a few plants. I think this is actually the only plant that I have left that's rooting in perlite, and it's just to show you guys this experiment, but everything else I've moved to other mediums because I don't like how quickly this dries out. It's something that I think it works pretty well. I'd say that it's worth trying out. It's just really not my favorite. It's really just not my favorite. And as you guys can see from this cutting, it seems like there's only one little root. So it's not like amazing. It's not the most amazing thing ever to root in. And I don't know. I noticed that the roots turn pretty yellow, and it's because it's almost like they're not getting enough moisture, because I keep forgetting to like add the water back to it, and it's just difficult to know when you have to add water. It's not as like easy maintenance as I feel like the other mediums are. I have not added water at all to any of these mediums, so that's why I'm filming this video right now. Also, I start school next week, so I figured that I would film this video now and just update you guys on the 2 weeks, considering I'm already getting some rootage. So I think we're good here. I know that there are so many people out there who love perlite, and I agree. It's like, it's easy. It's like something that you probably already have because you probably already use it in your soil. It's something that like is just easy to like stick in for like stability. It seems like a good idea. Like, I agree. I enjoy it for that reason. I feel like I'm still gonna possibly propagate with perlite like in the future. If it comes down to like an unstable cutting, I might end up using that. My favorite rooting medium, definitely biased, I can definitely say that I'm biased, is Leca. Leca is honestly my favorite because it's one of those things that's super low maintenance, like super, super, super low maintenance. the water doesn't really like decrease until you start getting some like crazy roots. So the humidity sort of in the pot that you're rooting in is really just like condensating, and it's like doing a good job of just like providing a really good environment for your stem to root. So I really love LECA. I think it's super easy. I don't think it's particularly the quickest thing ever. It's just so low maintenance that for somebody like me who's about to go back into school, I'm in nursing school, I am really busy. Sometimes I just have to like leave my propagations and just ignore them. I don't have time to be checking on them like every single day or every single week to check to see if they might need water. With LECA, I feel like you can just put like half of water in there and then it just sort of does its own thing, and it doesn't need any sort of maintenance. This guy has a single root. It is a very long root, but it is just a single root. So it's not, like I said, the fastest sort of medium ever, but I do still really like it just because it's so like set it and forget it that I like that. I also have a lot of my Hoyas in semi-hydro, so LECA is something that if I propagate in LECA, the plant typically just ends up living in LECA because why not? Moving on, we're going to talk about cocoa husk. So cocoa husk is something that you can buy for incredibly cheap at your local pet store. I believe that the one that I use is honestly like, I want to say it was $3 on Amazon when I bought it. That's 100% a giant benefit of buying cocoa husk. Cocoa husk is super cheap, and plants really like it if they are sort of moisture loving plants. I would say that there is a slight possibility that you might deal with stem rot because of how much moisture it like takes in, but really it just kind of depends on like how the node is doing, if you're callousing it over. I actually do not wait until my plants callus over before putting them in LECA or before putting them in perlite. Before putting them on any medium, really, I don't wait. I'm a terrible Hoya person. Definitely, I would recommend that you should wait until it calluses over just ever so slightly, so that way it provides a lesser chance of getting stem rot or any other like fungal issues. I just don't do it because I'm lazy. This cutting right here actually has 3 leaves, so I do know that there are multiple people out there who say that the more nodes and the more leaves that your plant or an ender cutting has, the higher chances of it rooting. So let's just check this out. It already feels kind of like tough. I don't know if you can see. Ooh, wow. Wow, I can feel the roots. Ooh, okay. Oh, wow, okay. That's not the most amazing thing ever. It definitely had a lot more stem than the rest of the plants that I've shown, and it seems to be rooting pretty slowly. It has some roots sort of towards the bottom here, and it also has roots like at the top. That's where that cocoa husk is hanging off of, and I like cocoa husk. Like I said, for moisture loving and or dehydrated plants, for some reason they really like cocoa husk. It doesn't have to be some like crazy expensive cocoa husk out there. I really think that the $3 one from Amazon works just fine. The next medium is along the lines of something that you probably already have and it would be worth trying out, and it is just regular old potting soil. So this potting soil is a potting soil that I recently bought. I have been trying out Fox Farm Ocean Forest, and I seem to really be enjoying it. It's really nice. I think I like it. I really like how it mixes in with the rest of my soil amendments, but a lot of people just root in moist potting soil. This is another thing that I don't love doing. It's definitely not my favorite thing to do, but I can understand why people do it. It's incredibly easy. If you're going to be using dirt already, then why not just stick your Hoya in the dirt that you're going to be using, right? I really like it because of that. The sort of like ease of use is incredibly like common sense. All you really have to do is stick your node into this like moist, I wouldn't say super wet, potting soil, and it seems to do the trick. It seems to be a way that a lot of people root their plants because it's pretty easy, and I could see and understand why people would do this if they had a lot of plants to root. But just for me, the same thing as a perlite, I feel like it's a little bit higher maintenance just because you are not really sure when you need to water this. If it goes too dry, it probably won't do the trick, and if it's too wet, you might rot your plant. It's also kind of difficult to see what's going on in the soil. That's sort of similar to like the cocoa husk, but at least the cocoa husk has some like pockets of air in it to where you might be able to see a root if there is one. But for this is like just pure darkness. Like you can't really tell what's going on. But let's see what's going on with the soil. You can see that there's like a little bit of a clump there. I think it's pretty similar to what was going on with the cocoa husk, where it had like sort of just roots at the base and not really roots anywhere else. It seems to be still rooting though, so that's really great. And I definitely think that if you have potting soil and you have a Hoya that you've been wanting to root and you haven't had very good luck with just water, potting soil might be something that you want to try out. I think I might root with it like this again. The next medium that we're talking about is also a little bit tricky to find out when you need to water or not, and we're talking about just plain old coco coir. So coco coir is another one that is very cheap, very accessible. I want to say it's like $5 for like this massive cube at your local Lowe's and or like Walmart or big box store. I don't think that I enjoy this just because Hoyas are sort of one of those plants that don't really need added coco coir, but if you have other plants like philodendron or synapsis or anything like that, like maybe coco coir might be something that you might want to add into your soil, but really it's sort of not super necessary for me. But let's go ahead and check this out. It's a very soft mixture. It's nothing too crazy, and let's pull this out. Ooh, this one probably might be the worst one that we have so far. Well, I mean, no, that's a root. That one at the top, this one right here, that's a root. So I think that it's doing okay. It's not the worst thing that we've ever seen, right? But the one that's down here, there are also little tiny roots down there. So that's promising. I like it. I enjoy it. So far, I don't even know which one would be winning. I actually think that the vermiculite might be winning so far, right? The next one that I have is moss. If you don't follow me on Instagram, go follow me. I have talked multiple times about how I do not like moss. I don't like moss for Hoyas. Hoyas have very delicate roots. I know that everybody talks about how moss has antifungal properties and antibacterial properties, so it's like less likely for you to get rot. I have rotted so many plants in moss, y'all. I know that it's just not amateur friendly, okay? It's just not amateur friendly. I've watched videos of what you're supposed to do when we're taking care of plants in moss, and what you're supposed to basically do is soak them, like wring them out, soak them again, wring them out, and once it's wrung out, that's the moss that you should be using. And a lot of people make the mistake of just like wetting moss and having like really damp moss, and that really damp moss typically causes stem rot or root rot. It does bad things to your plants basically. But even after following like the instructions of people who are experts in moss, I don't like moss. I still don't like moss. Like moss is just something that is incredibly annoying to me. It's like a sponge to your root. So if you take it out, let's take this out and look at what's going on. I do agree that plants will root in moss pretty easily because of all the moisture that's in the moss, right? But see, like I just did it right now. Whenever you're like trying to pick off the moss, it comes off with the root. So it's like, that's not fun. That's like not what you want, really. And you're not really sure what to root and what's not a root. So people will typically just, you know, take it out and then put it into soil or whatever they're going to use. And I just don't like the tedious nature of moss. This plant, I think I ripped off a root. I might have not ripped off a root, and this is actually the only one that rooted, but it has like a super tiny root. Once again, this is another medium that I do not enjoy because of its high maintenance. You're not really sure when you're supposed to water. Like I said, I haven't watered any of these plants in 2 weeks, and this one seemed to have been needing some water for quite a bit now, and it's just not something that's feasible for me. I can't be checking to make sure that my moss is the correct level of dampness, you know? I like the fact that people find it easy and that it's accessible and that it's cheap also, because you can find it on Amazon for a pretty good price in pretty bulk amounts. But for Hoya, I really just don't recommend it. I'm sorry. I love Harley G. Harley G is the best. I used to watch Harley G all the time before I even started my channel, and I still watch Harley G now. She posted a video on basically her favorite way of propagating, and she used moss. So that's no hate to her. I just am not a moss person. I'm so sorry. I'm just not a moss person. If you're not a moss person, then this video might be for you. You might want to try out some of these other mediums, see how they do. But I just really don't like moss. I'm so sorry. It's something that like I really don't like moss. Moss is the worst. Moss is not good. I refuse to use moss in any other cutting at all. I just won't use it. The thing that Harley and I actually do is put our mediums in areas in which they have high humidity. High humidity is something that you absolutely need for your Hoyas. So Ziploc bags are something that's very accessible to many people out there, and I know that it's something that a lot of people use. A lot of people will tend to put the medium actually in the bag and just root in the bag. But let me tell you my problem with this, however. The issue with this is that whenever the plants get super condensated and the inside of the bag gets wet, the bag, if you're not watching it correctly, will sometimes touch up on your plants. And if it's like that for too long and you're not checking on your plants constantly, like say I might not be, it's gonna possibly rot your leaf. It's gonna damage your leaf, and it's just not something that you want to do. The touching of the leaves is definitely something that can cause a problem for you, but if you sort of tent it in a way where it won't actually like touch your leaves, that's, I'd say, the best way to go. But this is a little bit of a waste of plastic. You don't really need Ziploc bags. What I love and adore using is takeout containers. I liked using Ferrero Rocher, sort of like those acrylic boxes just filled with leca. That is my favorite, absolute favorite way of propagating. I love that. It really like compacts the humidity. I honestly think that you do need to open the box and sort of open these sort of like humidity things that you have to boost your humidity just every now and then. It doesn't need to be that often. It really doesn't need to be that often. Because like I said, it could cause some like fungal issues, something rotting going on. But for the most part, it is the easiest, simplest, most like set it and forget it kind of propagating method. It really truly is. If you haven't already tried propagating with water, 100% propagate with water. So these plants were rooting in rainwater and tap water. So this one is the rainwater. It actually rooted so much. You can see those like super long roots. It's crazy. I honestly think that rainwater is something that if you have access to, collect it. If you have access to rainwater and you're allowed to collect it, collect the rainwater, because rainwater is seriously magic when it comes to rooting, when it comes to just watering your plants. It's really awesome, and plants just eat it up. And then the regular tap water, it has a few roots too. I really love water. It's funny because a few of my friends have said that with water, they have rotted a lot of plants. I don't think I've ever had a plant rot in water. Surprisingly enough, I've had plants rot in leca. I've had plants rot in like cocoa husk. I've had plants 100% rot in moss, pretty much. I think I have like I think I probably have like a 20% success rate in moss. So that's why I really don't like it. I actually recently got these little containers from the dollar store. These are just trays that I stacked on top of each other. So I wanted to show you guys the difference between perlite, leca, and cocoa husk, because these so far have been the most popular and recommended ways of propagating Hoya. Like I said, I just really like having like a container like this that will sit above and not touch your leaves, because like I said, if it touches your leaves might die, and that's not good. So here I actually have some Lacunosa that have only been rooting for, I want to say, like a week. It has not been that long, and I think that the one in leca has already started rooting. As you can see, it's a really like rooted into the leca already, and that's amazing. That's why I love leca. It is also rooted pretty well into the perlite. Probably not as long as roots, but it has also been rooting into the perlite. So if you have perlite, I think that you should definitely try putting it into a container like this. The cocoa husk doesn't really seem to be doing anything so far. There is some roots happening here, but it's just not my favorite. Cocoa husk is something that I just sort of reserve for those dehydrated and sad plants that don't seem to enjoy the other mediums. Whenever I was making this video, I really thought like, oh, maybe I might find a different way that I love rooting. But no, I still think that it's leca in a container. It's just so easy, and like I said, it's something that you can just like forget about. I have had plants like rooting in a box for like months now, and they somehow are still alive. I'm sorry. It's also really nice because you get a fuller plant whenever they're laid on their side like that, instead of being like stunked into by a stem. Because whenever they're laying on their side, that's multiple places that the plant is rooting. So that's multiple nodes that the plant is rooting. And that means that in the future, whenever it starts getting new growth, it could possibly get new growth from every single node instead of just the one. And on top of that, you can cut after it's been rooted, and you can cut them and become like make a fuller plant, and it's just awesome. I just love laying down plants and rooting that way. I really don't think I can recommend it more. Another thing about Hoyas that are super awesome is the fact that they can root without having a node. So I don't know if you guys noticed, but several of my plants here did not have nodes. Several of my plants here did not have nodes. This one is included in that. This does not have a node, and it rooted like crazy. It didn't just root where the node is, because this is where the node is. It also rooted down here towards the bottom, and it rooted in the middle of the stem up here. So it's pretty crazy. You definitely do not need a node to root Hoyas, and that is because the aerial roots they grow are all throughout the stem. The roots just grow like crazy. It's very similar to like begonias. Begonias will root just all around, all over the stem. It seems like I would recommend buying vermiculite if you haven't already, because it seemed to have worked very well. I think that that one was probably the one that rooted the most. It rooted quite a bit. I'll post a side-by-side and you can see, and let me know in the comments what plant and what medium you thought did best. I would also like to mention that it 100% depends on the plant that you get, and the health of the plant, and the amount of nodes of the plant, and how many leaves the plant has, to sort of gauge the success rate of how quickly you're going to be able to root your plant. I love getting cuttings. I really love getting cuttings, but sometimes we don't get the healthiest cuttings. We possibly get a cutting that has been dealing with like stem rot and we don't realize it, or we get a plant in the mail that suffers some damage or something, and then once we actually like start trying to root it, it ends up just really not giving. I really love Hoya because they are super easy to root. So I think everybody should take part in propagating your Hoyas. It's not scary. I remember whenever I first started collecting Hoyas, I used to be so scared to actually cut the plant because I was afraid of the white fluid that had come out of the plant. That is just milk sap. It's part of the milkweed family. It really does nothing. It does nothing. It's nothing that you should be afraid of. Like I said, if you callus it over, the sort of like milky sap will stop and maybe you won't be so afraid of it anymore. I've also actually been experimenting with a heat mat and it has been all fun and games. I actually think that my plants do in fact root faster on a heat mat, and I was super surprised to see that because it's just something that I didn't really expect. I knew that it was something that people talked about a lot, but it wasn't something that like I super believed in. But after using a heat mat, it's something that like I think could be a worthy investment if you want. If you're like an average Joe like me, you probably don't care. As long as the plant gets rooted, it doesn't matter how fast it is. So yeah, I want to say that's gonna be it for today's video. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and hit the like button down below, and if you like me or you like plant videos, go ahead and subscribe if you want to. But that's gonna be it for today's video, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye!
This isn't me showing you my eyeliner at all.
I just spit. Actually. Oh.